The summary of gaps is a very, very critical section in your long essay, thesis, or dissertation. The goal of the summary of gaps is to summarize the whole gaps, not really the whole gaps, but the gaps of your literature themes. Remember your literature themes when there's a video on how to write literature and source for materials. You organize your literature to align with your research objectives. Your research objectives are also aligned with your theoretical framework. Your conceptual review is also extracted from your theoretical framework. So there's a red tape, a thread that flows from all the sections, and the goal of a literature review is to find gaps. There should be gaps in conceptual review or review of concepts. What are the gaps in definitions and all? There are gaps in the literature review. There are also gaps in the empirical review. Then your only section where you might not really see gaps is the theoretical framework, unless you're doing a theoretical review. Then, but the summary of gaps is only restricted to the literature review. Most times the supervisor might not have all the time. If you're writing literature review, especially for postgraduate, you might have 80 pages, 100 pages, maybe a PhD, 120 pages, 150 pages, depending on the discipline. To whet the appetite of the supervisor, the person needs to see your summary of gaps. Once you have created and shown gaps exist in literature, especially recent literature, then you're good to go. He can now go further and read the other sections. So now when we look at the summary of gaps, you present it as a concluding chapter. This chapter concludes with the summary of gaps that has been identified in the study. So this is how maybe you start it also. So there's an opening section that it's more of a conclusion. So instead of having summary of gaps, then you're now having summary of chapters or summary of chapters. Yes, you just have your summary of gaps. Then the next one is you now look at literature theme one. That is objective one, literature theme one. That's why your literature has to be so organized. What were the studies presented? What were the gaps that were all presented? So you present the literature with all the gaps, especially we talk about thematic. That's why it's good to do your literature in themes. What were all the things they were saying? Then you group all the scholars. This is what they said: stakeholder engagement and Facebook mechanisms by this person, this person, this person, this person. Another gap was promoting conversation and immediate real time feedback. That's what you found in the literature. Now, the key thing is that after this first section, this inspires the first research objective to evaluate the features of Facebook that makes it suitable or otherwise for a medium to enhance Facebook and build advocacy. So these are the gaps from people. It's not maybe all what you have seen, but if you group them in teams, it's easy. So this is what this person found, but there was a gap. There was a gap in this study. There was a gap in this study. There's a gap. Now it inspires the first research objective to evaluate. So you now link these gaps to your objective. The idea of the summary of gap is to defend your objective. That means there is a knowledge gap, there's an evidence gap, the methodological gap, maybe a theoretical gap, there's an action gap. All those gaps that inspires a statement of problem. You now say, this is what, with all these gaps, I am now prompted to do this. That is why we try to encourage students, do a literature review first. When you do a literature review, you align it with a theoretical framework. That's when, before you now start even the chapter one, chapter three, and all. If you don't know the gaps, in fact, it's from this statement summary of gaps that you extract your statement of problem and all. So you go to the next section Furthermore, literature has revealed a number of concepts made obsolete by Facebook. So this is the second objective. So you present those people who have made some statements closely related to your own, but they have left knowledge gaps. You present them slowly, like that, like that. Then you come again. This gives the opportunity for the study. This gives the opportunity for the study to contribute knowledge to the objective of how the law of obsolescence impacts Facebook as a medium for photo voice when investigating clean water access in selected communities. So your second objective is inspired by the gaps you have found in this literature theme about Facebook obsolescence. You come to the third one, all those people that you have reviewed in the literature review, maybe not all, some of them key, but they are a sample of the literature themes, the sub themes that you have found. Then you come again and say, come and say, this inspires the objective to understand how Facebook can retrieve photo voice project. So this is the justification and this is the conclusion. So you have summarized all the gaps from all these people. It's you're just repeating in a way what you have already presented, but this is just like a kind of an expanded abstract of what is in your literature. You're not talking about the theoretical framework. You're not talking about conceptual review. You're not talking of empirical review. It's just the literature. The idea of the literature is what are the contributions of people and where did they stop? And this is why you are continuing. So you're collating related studies and showing that these studies, all these studies done within the last 5 years or so, they left a gap. That is why your own is being inspired. Then finally, in case you if you have four research questions, of three, you said finally this is it. Then you present all the studies with their positions. This is their positions. Then what is the gap they have left? So the documented experiences of the reversals of Facebook have limited evidence when adding the photoverse variable, and this elicits investigation to appraise the potential reverses that can be created by Facebook and all. So you can see this is what people have contributed, but this is what you have left out, and this is what has inspired you. So the same thing. So this is a summary of gap. When your supervisor or anybody reads it, he said, yes, you should when they read this, they should be able to understand, give a bird eye view of what your main work is. Then it now inspires them to go through your work to confirm what is here. So the summary of gap is the concluding section of the chapter 2, but you have to do it objective by objective, literature theme by literature theme. If you have four objectives, you will have four literature themes, or maybe more than that, depending on the style. But it's good to be organized. Present all the studies you have done. Then what did they find out? Then what didn't they find out? And that should inspire your own objective one. Present all the studies. It should inspire your own objective two. Present all the studies. It inspires your own objective three. Then your last objective. So that is it for summary of gaps.